Tom?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, you did that? All right.
We can start.
Very good. I would like to say good evening to everybody and to go through the process. A joint meeting of the Board of Public Works Commissioners and the Committee of Infrastructure is being held this day, Wednesday, May 28, 2025, at 5:36 p.m. Here at the City Hall Alderman's quarters here. So let me just record this. And can the clerk please call the roll?
Absolutely. Commissioner Espethia? Commissioner Gregg?
Here.
Commissioner Lemon?
Here.
Commissioner Shea?
Here.
Alderman Thibodeau?
Here.
Alderman Sullivan? Alderman Dowd? Alderman Clee is here. And Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have 6 members present.
Okay. Also in attendance, we have Mr. Tim Cummings, Administrative Services Director, and Lisa Foto, who is the Director of the Public Works Department. I'd like to thank everybody. I know we were just talking about afternoon meetings, but I appreciate you all making the time to come here. And excuse me, also in attendance is Mr. Sullivan. And who do you represent?
Field Owners Project.
Thank you, thank you. And so without further ado, we can expedite this and go right through. Public comment. I don't see anybody in the chamber. Approval of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to motion for the approval of the April 22nd, 2025, meeting minutes.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, general progress update, and it's going to be about the design of the floor plan update. And so I will recognize the Administrative Service Director, Mr. Tim Cummings, and Mr. Joe Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services. Before I hand it off to Mr. Sullivan, our Owners Project Manager, do want to just note and highlight a couple things here that I think this body and then the viewers at home may be aware of. First, just as an FYI, there is a bond authorization piece of legislation up tomorrow night for a public hearing seeking $5.5 million to continue our work on this project. That is a public hearing scheduled for tomorrow night, R25-151. That's just an FYI for you all. And secondly to that, our financing plan has not changed. We're continuing to move along under the current circumstances we discussed at our previous meeting. I don't want to be held to these numbers, but the rough sketch of this is looking like somewhere between a $43-ish to $48 million debt authorization for construction will be needed sometime next year. This would be in addition to that $5.5 million in design, or that includes the $5.5 million in design that we'd be authorizing hopefully in June. And then we'll have some other transfers and repurposing of funds to consolidate all of our various funding sources into one project activity, just so we can have a clean accounting for this project. And we'll be looking to undertake this work over the next few months or so as we start to transition from one fiscal year to the next fiscal year, and to put us in good stead to be able to enter into a contract sometime, hopefully next spring, early summer. And then my last comment, Mr. Chairman, is We are making our way through the design. We are hopefully wrapping up a schematic design phase this, over the next month or so. I anticipate us coming before you seeking approval of that design at our next meeting in June. After that meeting, I'm not sure we're going to need to meet as much. We'll be rolling into the summer season, and so there'll probably be a conversation about us meeting sometime maybe at the end of summer or even into the fall, depending on how this design progresses over the next month or so, and I just want to make the body aware of that. So, Mr. Chairman, with those comments being said, I'd like to hand it over to...
May I ask just one question, and just to say to other members, newer members on the board, as we roll on, Director Cummings and myself do go to these construction meetings. Sometimes they're held weekly. And if you had any questions on the project, you could contact the two of us instead of bothering the guys who are working diligently to complete the project. But usually we meet in the trailer there on site and get the briefings, and some of it's important, so, you know, okay? All right, Director Cummings.
Yep, so just wanting to hand it over now to Joe Sullivan, who's going to give you a little bit more detailed update on the progress we've made over the last month or so.
Thank you, Tim. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to provide a small presentation. It's just about the activities, and we're excited about some of the finalization as we're working through the site plan as well as floor plans and program for the overall building. Completed tasks over the last 5 weeks. We've done a lot. Our project team meets weekly, and to add to your point about as far as updates for the Alderman and Joint Committee, we provide weekly updates when we get into that process that we'll be providing to Tim and Lisa that can be dispersed, that'll outline all of the activities and projections for the next following week as well, or month, depending on how we put it together. We've been working diligently with the architect and their team of consultants, along with the Division of Public Works. Lisa and Tim have been, and their team have been essential with making sure that we stay on track with not only the design and the timelines, but meeting their program needs. GSI has performed the test pits and borings, assisted with the DPW. They performed the test pits, which was a cost savings, and gave us the soil results to determine, you know, how we were going to actually bear the building and locate the structure on the rear of that property. HDR is a company that actually does a lot of equipment layout for, you know, they try to plan it for the next 50 years, listen to what the Division of Public Works has that they will be bringing over for cost savings, and identify the costs associated with any equipment items that we may have to buy. We're working with the fire department, coordination issues about relocating the tower facility to provide us that buffer area to be able to do the building layout. Preliminary cost estimation has been completed by Harvey's and Left Field, and we're staying track on that. As each design evolves, we're doing a quick takeoff to make sure that we're staying on budget. That's the ultimate goal. We're going to look at, you know, design flexibility and efficiencies within the design, and we're working with both the division, Lisa, Tim, and their team, in identifying some cost-saving measures if we see that we're starting to go over, and we'll identify that regularly. As the design moves towards design development, we're actually going to get a little bit more information related to design to actually give us some clear, definitive materials that'll be used so that we can really hone in on what the cost of square footage cost will be as we move forward. So that's all coming together. Schematic design really is a step where we're going to really have a great understanding of the program itself. The next slide I want to talk about is the civil drawing, how the building is actually laid out. You'll see on the screen, the section in red is the new building. The admin building is the front locality of it. If you look to the far right of that building, you'll see the vehicle storage has the lines on it where you can see all of the vehicles, how they would park within that structure. To the right is where the fire tower will be removed and relocated, giving us the perimeter and the traffic flow around that building to provide all of their vehicles and equipment to get into that structure. The vehicle maintenance is the perpendicular portion of the building that goes away from the vehicle storage. That's where the fleet maintenance, actually, all of that work gets done through those bays area. We've literally gone through 4 renderings of little tweaks and changes to make it more efficient within that facility to not only reduce costs, but make sure that the facility meets the next 50 years as we move forward. The design floor plan, this is blown up a little bit more to give you a little more indication. You'll see the area that abuts the administration. That'll be the locker rooms and some adjacent spaces that would be used for administrative to get into the vehicle storage. As you move through the vehicle storage, there'll be doors and access and mezzanines that'll hold some of the mechanical equipment, as well as, the offices related to the vehicle maintenance facility. There'll be storage rooms off of that and any, bathroom and facilities that might be needed within that locality. The layout has been built with such efficiency in the door layouts to make it so that depending on the season of when the department is utilizing that building, whether it's summer, fall, or winter, they have the ability to reconfigure their layout of the vehicles within there. So if they're having an event or a storm, they can actually store the equipment indoors so that it's a clean start. Everything's unfrozen as they go out there for that efficiency aspect of it. We did show, and we had a discussion about the drive-through vehicle wash. We've identified a locality on the property for that. We are currently doing some cost takeoffs on that and looking for efficiencies and costs to try to reduce that, and we'll be able to provide that probably the month of June. Everything that I'm showing on here is meeting the Division of Public Works needs currently right now. We've gone through a lot of discussion points that just really minor modifications within there just to really show the efficiencies with each section of that building. The next one is just basically the level 1, how it's going to be set up. Really no change from the floor plan that I showed you before. The elevations, this was probably one of the biggest milestones that we came through. Because of the size of the building, we wanted to make sure that we were able to break up the massing of it. When you look at the building, you just don't want to see one big massive, concrete building that is, it's needed, but it doesn't have to be unsightly. So the city has actually tasked the designer with coming up with a few different options to make sure that, there's architectural details on the outside that are cost-effective, but break up the mass. You'll see some translucent panels on the outside that allows natural light to filter into the building, breaking up that mass. And what it does more so is it affects and reduces the energy cost. For natural light within that space, you don't have to have any condensing lights or LED lights running, so your efficiencies get better as you move forward with that. You'll see some of the colorations. There's some color palettes that started to be drawn out just for discussion purposes more than anything. This is all conceptual.
There we go.
I just want to make sure that everybody's aware this isn't the final. This is the first pass. This is a discussion start-off point, and it'll evolve as we move forward. The project design throughout the past weeks, we've been refining it as I discussed for future program needs. Minimize the cost. We're really looking at every avenue, a wash bay, what the interior services could be to try to reduce costs, but save longevity on the building. All of this is going to happen from now right through design development. Next steps, design development is set to begin June 1st. We're expected to have schematic design completed by the end of this month. Our civil engineer continues to finalize the limit of work. We're trying to really identify the limit of work on the site plan so that the Department of Public Works wants to take a little bit of the responsibility of doing some land clearing and stumping packages that we want to try to do. So we're trying to get that information over the next week or so. We're schedules everything. I'm a stickler to make sure that when we're promised deliverables, we're getting those deliverables so that we can make sure that we're making good decisions on a timely fashion. We're coordinating with the permitting aspect of it. There's going to be a lot of permitting, a lot of zoning discussions, a lot of public forums that we're going to have to ensure that, we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's as we move towards that construction aspect of it. Harvey's continues to look at the constructability. They look at different facets of the building, not only the details on the plans, but they're looking at, materials that make it either more efficient or the durability longer lasting, and they're giving those recommendations to each of these meetings as we move forward. The project team also continues to refine the materials, the overall functionality of the project. And what we mean by that is that, there may be durability materials used on the lower section of the building because we know that's where most of the traffic aspect of it is. And then we'll go into more efficient construction material on the siding, including translucent panels, to make the cost of the project to as minimum as we can to make sure that we meet the program needs.
Director Cummings?
Yes, could you perhaps touch on our exercise that we're going through right now relative to our study of modular prefab?
Yeah, one of the things that I explained the last meeting is that we're looking at the constructability of the larger section of the building, and that's the vehicle storage. We looked at conventional construction. We did a takeoff cost on that. We found it to be X, whatever that number was. But my past experience and what we've done in the past is we've done pre-engineered facilities as well, and we've been able to successfully marry conventional construction into the pre-engineered to reduce the overall cost of the project. And in doing so, we feel, especially the vehicle storage, which is around 90,000 square feet, we feel that we're able to reduce that building cost, in a significant manner to allow us to make sure that we're hitting all of the program needs that we're going to need for the division, but reduce the overall cost to the city. And that every aspect of the building, we're looking at that. We looked at even, we talked about the automated vehicle wash. Can we possibly price that out that way? We're looking at that option just to explore it, to exhaust that conversation so that it's not asked later on, what if we would have done that? We're looking into it now to make sure those aspects are done. We're also looking at, different energy efficiencies and green status of trying to make this building as efficient as we can. We're going to look at every avenue possible to make sure that, at least we ask the question. If it's financially not probable right now, we'll put the infrastructure in for moving forward as we look at each portion of this. Is that pretty much?
Thank you.
The next few slides.
Yeah, we're going to stop right there because I believe next on the agenda is we have approval of invoices, and then we're going to jump to approval of various proposals, which, Mr. Chairman, at that time, I'm going to ask Director Photo to talk a little bit about the wastewater treatment plant facility that is on your agenda. So,
Okay, do you want approvals for those items for wastewater?
later on in the agenda, I think next on the agenda is we need to approve left field's invoice for $22,000 for OPM services for the month of March. If I could get a motion for approval, I am recommending approving this invoice at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, we'll hold off on the other ones. And can I take questions to Mr. Sullivan at this particular time? Does any member of the board have a question? Yes, Alderman Thibodeau.
Everybody likes a nice-looking building, and I'm curious, you brought it up, so I'm curious the cost difference between a pretty building and a concrete building.
So, so how can I put it? It's a great question to start with. It's not so much a cost differential to beautify a building. There's different architectural techniques to, reduce the overall massing of it, but still stay within budget. Mm-hmm. So it may be a cement metal rain shield panel versus doing CMU. It's an architectural feature that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to cost more to beautify. It just means that we're taking different architectural aspects of the building to make sure that it is a handsome building to look at as we move forward. So to do a block building versus making architectural features that are going to make it more handsome, there isn't like a difference in cost. We're just making sure that we're challenging the architects to ensure that it's not just a CMU building, that's all.
Good enough.
Okay?
Thank you.
Anybody else? I do have one. How do we do on the soil testing?
Great. Actually, the gradation of the soil and the height of the water levels is more than sufficient to bare the building. There are going to be, materials that we'll bring in, crushed stone underneath certain localities of it. And there'll be some cut and fills that we'll do, because we do have a 5-foot drop there. We are going to have to bring some materials in there, but it's all good bearing material. We
Okay,
didn't find much unsuitable, which is good news.
because I know mechanic pits are now considered illegal, I think with OSHA. So that means there's going to have to be maybe some truck lift structures in there,
Yeah, the
And
efficiencies
so can the ground hold that with the truck in a small footprint of an area,
And those areas are being identified. The HDR, the company that we were talking about earlier about identifying the equipment requirements for the program that they've been looking for, they identified specific localities within the building, whether it's going to be a pit associated with servicing the cars, or whether the lifts and how they're going to be installed. The environmental portion of it, today's technology is much different than it was 30 years ago, where we had cylinders within the ground. We were worried about storage of the hydraulic material, lifting it up. It's a lot different currently right now.
Okay. And my last question, I'll recognize Commissioner Shea. Is the intention is to move the fuel tanks for the city out to that location?
No. I thought you were going to ask the fuel tank at solid waste. No, the intent is to leave the fuel tanks where they are at the current street department.
Okay, and that's not in the way of future expansion, a possible future expansion?
Not at this time. We don't have any plans for that building, but the plan right now is not to move. There are a lot of other entities that use those fuel tanks, as you know, police, fire, ambulance, school
Yeah.
department. So it's important that they all continue to have access, so.
Yeah, I know if I was still associated with the department, heading that far out West Hollis Street, just coming from the airport or something like a Crown Hill section, just to fill up the truck, you know what I mean? It's more centrally located would be better. You must remember the good old days when the tanks were out here at City Hall.
No, I
No,
was
no.
not here at that.
Oh, they were, they were.
What year was
I
that?
haven't been here that
Oh,
long.
when I started in the early 80s,
Remember, they used to have horses over here.
yeah. They had a diesel fill and gasoline, because we still had gasoline apparatus at that time, even though they were manufactured the same year I was born, and I'm driving one, you know what I mean? So, but used to like, somebody would always sometimes make the mistake and put gasoline in the diesel engine or something like that. Oh, yeah, it wasn't pretty, okay. But, yes, Commissioner Shea, thank you for waiting your patience, sir.
Oh, of course. So for the fire training facility, is it absolutely necessary that be moved?
Yes.
I have to fathom that moving that might put like as much as 10% on this project or something. So am I wrong that it might be like $4 million to build a new training facility? Alderman
Yeah,
O'Brien?
no, we're not, I don't think we're building a new facility, we're relocating that facility.
Oh.
So that's the good news.
So you have all the stuff.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there's not gonna be a cost associated with it,
Yeah.
but we're tracking that on a separate, cost allocation. That has to be moved for a couple of reasons. One, the traffic flow and flow of vehicle traffic around the building. The position worked for the fire department while, the facility was operational the way it is. The locality where they're gonna move it will be even better for them as they move forward, and it'll give the traffic and the flow of the vehicles around the building that much better.
So at least we're not starting from scratch on it.
No,
That's
we are
good.
not.
Good. And then on the lifts, and Director Photo would be able to offer more insight on this, of course, but we've approved recently some mobile lifts, and I would anticipate that that's the kind of equipment that they'll be using in this facility, and that equipment will be moved over.
Absolutely
Yeah.
correct.
Yep.
Yes,
That's the intent.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and Chief Buxton of the National Fire Rescue has been briefed since the beginning with this process, and he understands the expansion and the Board of Fire Commissioners, and it seems like surprised, but, you know, every agency's bonded together with this.
Well, it sounds like a good balance on handling
Right.
it, so that's good. Thank you.
Everybody's getting along, so it's good.
And so, Mr. Chairman, to that point, we're meeting every couple weeks to coordinate the two projects to keep them moving along. And I think you'll actually hear a little bit about the fire relocation initiative at your Committee on Infrastructure meeting tonight.
Tonight at
So-
7, yes.
So you may be hearing a
I
little
see
bit
Chief
more about
Buxton
that.
is on the docket. Yes, indeedy. Thank you.
I would
Yes,
anticipate that.
Commissioner Shea.
I actually do have one more question.
Sure.
So, on the bonding for this project, I guess it's a question about process in bonds. So like, say in 6 months from now, the interest rates available are better, do we have an opportunity to take advantage of that, or not really? We've kind of executed on the bonds, and that's where we're at.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, you may.
So that is a great question that doesn't have one answer.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it assumes some things that may or may not happen, so.
So first, to that point, we don't typically sell in a 6-month period. We kind of wait and sell once a year, and we quote-unquote pay ourselves back because we act as a bank. We're watching, our treasurer and our finance team are watching the interest rates, and they speak to their financial consultants, and, you know, the team develops a strategy as to when's the best time to execute the sale to maximize, to our benefit, the you know, locking in of an interest rate. We do have to hold once we sell for a certain period of time, and we cannot, if you will, refinance, like the way you'd think of a mortgage of a single-family home. You can't do that per se. And so, at least not initially. You have to get through a certain period of time. After that period of time expires, then you can, you know, quote-unquote, refinance.
Very good. And that question assumes some timing, again, that may or may not happen, but there's also other things to consider. It was tough at our Board of Public Works meeting most recently to come in and see all of the bonded items, but then you look at it and you could see that care was given in terms of the timing of these things and why they're being done. And on this, you know, you have the interest rate question, but you also have the tariff question and all sorts of other questions, so. Anyway, I digress, but thank you for the insight.
Yep. I will say that people spend a lot of time, a lot of experts on time value of money, right? Time value of money is an incredible industry, not for me to get into, but some people have been very successful at understanding how to play the markets. So, yeah.
Okay, without any further questions, I think we'll move to approval of 3 invoices.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. So again, as I was saying a little bit earlier, I recommend approval of the left field invoice for March. Again, it's noted on your agenda for March 31st, 2025, in the amount of $22,000. I'd seek a motion for approval.
Okay, Alderman Clay, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the March 31st, 2025 Left Field LLC invoice in the amount of $22,000.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have an additional motion, Alderman Clay.
Yes. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the April 30th, 2025 Left Field LLC invoice in the amount of $22,000.
Okay. Director Cummings, do you have anything else to say on this one? Or?
Just want to make sure it's memorialized for the record that I recommend the approval of this as they've fulfilled their contractual obligations.
Okay, discussion now on the motion. Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Clay, could you do the next motion, please?
Did you want to hear from Director Cummings first?
Well,
Do you want to make
read the
first
motion, and then we'll have the explanation.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve April 22nd, 2025 GSI Geotechnical Services invoice in the amount of $8,100.
Okay, Director Cummings.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to note for the record that our OPM does recommend and ask that we approve the invoice that is noted on the agenda for GSI Geotechnical Services for the amount of $8,100 invoiced to us on April 22nd.
Okay, any question on the motion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, at this point,
Yes.
we move to the next level, and
Yes, thank you.
Director Cummings, can you please lead us into it?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if you recall, at the last meeting, I teased out the idea of a secondary project coming your way relative to storage area building within, for the purposes of the wastewater treatment plant. And so I've asked Director Photo to put a couple slides together to help give us a little bit of an orientation. And you have 2 agenda items that we can speak to in a little detail after you get an orientation in our efforts to try to move this project along. Yeah, please.
All right, Director Photo, please.
Okay, for the record, Lisa Photo, Director of Public Works. I'll be fairly brief. The wastewater garage is a planned project. It went through the Capital Improvement Committee process. It would be funded through wastewater user rates, not through tax or bonds. Well, it would be bonded, but through the user rates. The current maintenance garage is roughly 50 years old and has really exceeded its life expectancy. It doesn't meet the needs of our current staff, and we don't have any room to store any equipment. Wastewater has many pieces of equipment that should be stored under cover, much like the rest of DPW. And in the next slide, I'll show you, I think, a picture of a Vector truck. We have 2, we'll soon have 3 of these. They're roughly $600,000 a piece, and they need to be stored inside because they contain water. And right now, we really have no place to store them. So this garage would be able to store the Vectors and other equipment. In addition to the current maintenance garage needing to be renovated and expanded, we also need to move the current maintenance garage because we need to construct a type A biosolids building, and I won't get into that project in great detail because I could talk to that for half an hour. But that needs to go where the current, because of the way that our process works, that needs to go where the current maintenance garage is located. So that's another reason that it needs to move. The new garage would be located right as you enter wastewater to the right of the building. It's a parking lot right now that we're using primarily for contractors to store equipment and things. That would be where we'd recommend putting the new garage. We've met with wastewater staff and we've started to identify some of the needs for the new garage, but that would be collection system staff, our maintenance staff, and our electricians would be in this new facility in addition to the storage of equipment. So tonight we are requesting your approval to take the next step, which would be to enter a pre-design phase and do some programming and have a better determination of what the cost of this building may be.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, before we open up to questions, so on the agenda are 2 specific proposals. One would be to, through a separate contract, procure the services of Left Field to act as the OPM and help facilitate and move this project along through the process. This is, as mentioned, in its infancy. We're very early on, and we need to move this project along. It is planned on, and it does have an identified bona fide source of funds with the wastewater enterprise. So I would ask that you favorably approve the proposal for Left Field for $79,500. And then in addition to that, it would be the starting of the pre-design phase with our architect for services not to exceed $74,250. This would be to help us develop the design and the program and help us get a better orientation of square footage and ultimately help us understand costs that would go along with it. I would anticipate a future contract coming before you for construction management services. All of these contracts, I would recommend that we separately contract and then issue individual purchase orders, so it keeps it separate from the current project that we're working on right now, so there's a clear accounting. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I ask for your favorable support this evening on the two proposals.
Okay, and looking at the picture, anytime I see a kerosene heater as the main heating supply, kind of sets my antenna up. God bless the people working in the cold in that garage, so hopefully we can remedy that.
Half of this building was built in the 60s.
Yeah.
So it's an old building.
Oh, before we had heat? Yeah, yeah. I know the way our predecessors were. They weren't forgiving with the wallet too much, yes, yeah. Okay, Alderman Clegg.
Thank you. I'm definitely in favor of this, but I do have just a couple quick questions. One is, you said that there were the 3 vehicles that need to be undercover. How many are currently being housed in the current facility that has to be moved?
There aren't any. We are storing one of the Vectors in the wet weather building, which we shouldn't be doing, and then we're storing the other in the street department.
So the current facility is housing no vehicles
Correct.
at all? Okay, so you're actually just going to be building a new facility that will just house those 3 vehicles, is that what you're
No,
saying?
it'll house all of the equipment, the camera truck, the Vectors, the crane truck, the pickup trucks that we plow with.
So how many vehicles? Are you just,
I'd say roughly 15.
oh, wow, okay,
Probably.
great. No, like I said, I'm absolutely in favor of
Don't
this.
hold me to
Yeah.
that, but roughly.
no, I will.
I will give, as we get further along, I'll
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
give you a better.
No, I mean, this obviously is the source of funding and so on
Yes.
is there, and it was a planned event
Yes.
anyway, so, no. Just for the public that's hearing and so on, yeah. Those vehicles need to be, we spend a lot of money for them, we need to take care of
Yeah,
them. We need to
absolutely.
take care of these vehicles that we spend so much money on, so, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Commissioner Gregg.
Just a question in terms of, because I know the overarching plan is to build this, kind of this massive location where we're putting most of the vehicles inside of. Is the plan to have wastewater kind of have their own vehicle storage, and then the rest of the fleet is going to be inside of this new location? Is that kind of like the grander plan, the grander vision?
Right, so most of the equipment will be at 848 West Hollow Street in the garage, and then wastewater will be in this new garage.
Okay.
Right, so there won't be any of wastewater's equipment in the new garage.
So wastewater will have their own
They'll
separate
have
location?
their own separate location.
Okay,
Right, much smaller location.
sure.
Okay, I do have one. I know, if I remember correctly, when we were looking at the IMCO property at the end of Burke Street, and I think we divided up some of the land that could be accessible to the sewage treatment plant. I think we kind of moved the border a little bit. So in putting this garage, I'm just saying, is that the right place that won't limit future expansion, if needed, of the wastewater treatment facility?
And that's a very good question. The way the process works, I think this is an okay location. I'm not going to tell you, though, that we're not tight on that site. We don't have a lot of land. I wish we had more land, but if we were to build anywhere, this is probably the best place to build, because it would not, if we needed to add in the future due to process changes or regulatory issues, it would be further into the plant, not in the front.
Right, because am I correct, Director Cummings, we do own some of that lot there?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, what you're recalling is when we sold 141 Burke Street, we carved off about 2.5 acres for the express purpose of knowing that we were going to need to expand the wastewater treatment plant someday. So that is the land that you're referencing.
And we do utilize that for parking
Okay.
or storage of materials.
All right, very good. I just want to make sure, once we build a structure, it's tough to move it. you know,
Right,
you
right.
know. Yes,
Sure.
Mr.
The
Sullivan.
The other part of what Lisa and Tim are indicating is that this initial study will actually determine the size of the building. And actually, we take that, and I call it a box, the first design, and really look at the placement within that site for the efficiency. They're not going to put it on a locality where it may inhibit future development of that site. It just wouldn't make sense. So that's part of the first process that we'll go through.
Okay, very good. Okay, if we're all set with no other further questions, I will turn to my clerk for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve a contract for the wastewater maintenance and storage facility with Left Field LLC in the amount of $79,500.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Turn to the clerk. Next motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to motion to approve a contract for the wastewater maintenance and storage facility with HKT Architects Incorporated in the amount of $74,250.
Okay, any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And moving on, Director Cummings, are there other expenditures for approval?
Not this evening, Mr. Chairman. I think we've concluded all the business that I believe we needed to do this evening. I do just want to note that I'm seeking clarification and possibly a suggested next meeting time of June 26th.
26, yes.
June 26th, if possible. That would be immediately following the Board of Public Works or at a time certain, if that is the pleasure of the body. Not sure if folks are available, but I do want to note that I anticipate needing this meeting. And then I think after this meeting, it may be a couple months before we need to get together again, or at least not needing to meet as regularly in the summertime, and I will be able to give you a better update on that at the June meeting.
So that is Thursday, June 26th.
Yeah, that happens also to be the Board of Public Works. So we're thinking it would be easier maybe to get a quorum because the Board of Public Works will be there. And also you're usually there.
Yeah.
Alderman O'Brien and Alderman Dowd often attends, so.
Okay, but what, for the other three of us, and me as the clerk, what time?
Well, we should discuss that.
Yes, because if you
so-
say to follow and you guys end at a different time, and I have, to be honest with you, I have a planning board at 7.
So would 5 o'clock, 5:30?
5:30, I wouldn't do any earlier than 5:30, I'd say 5:30.
So
So
5:30.
don't start it earlier than 5:30.
We won't start it earlier than 5:30 if we can agree to do 5:30.
5:30, would that work?
You can make it?
Okay.
I'm disappointed we changed the date from June 25th. That's my 42nd wedding anniversary.
Oh,
I was going to take the wife out for a date and bring her to the meeting, you know? Says I never take her anywhere.
Welcome to attend the meeting.
Yeah. I know.
Says romance is dead.
All right, June 26th it is. That gets me off the hook with the missus.
Okay.
She's going to love me.
No,
No, she is going to look.
anniversary is the 25th.
She is going to love you.
So the 26th we're
this
fine.
26 works better.
After 42 years, believe me, it's fine. Okay, I think we got that. The next meeting of the Joint Committee of Public Works and the Committee of Infrastructure is confirmed and scheduled for Thursday, June 26, 2025, at 5:30 PM at the BPW facilities on West Hollis Street. Okay, and generally, I think we're going to meet in the same room as we usually do. When you go through the main entrance, they'll direct you, there's people usually there, but we'll go to the left, and right down by the end is the room that we'll be in, okay? So it's pretty easy to follow.
Just going to change this here, public works.
Okay.
And what is your address there?
848.
848, okay. Right. It's West Hollis, right?
Yes. I should know that, we built it.
I know.
Okay. Now, I think we're all set. Does anybody else have anything of interest for the joint committee? Seeing nothing, Alderman Clee, do you have a motion?
Yes, at this time, I motion to adjourn.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I thank everybody, and those, if we don't see you around, we'll definitely see you the 26th of June, and I'll declare the meeting adjourned at 6:21. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.